Starting from the burning bush, Church A. Describe what the people of Malta were known to be. Then compare the people of Malta with the Roman soldiers and the sailors. Describe all the things that the people of Malta did for those shipwrecked. How do we discover the burning bush in the actions of the people of Malta? Church B. How is Jericho the antithesis of the burning bush? Explain the significance of the earthquake and the fire in the destruction of Jericho and its relation to our lives. Explain the significance of the ram's horn blowing when the walls fell and its meaning for us.
The people of Malta, the story of Malta actually comes from Acts, Acts chapter 28 and 27 28. And basically the people of Malta were the people who picked up Paul, St. Paul, when he was being transferred by the Roman soldiers to Rome because he was a Christian, to be judged. And the people of Malta helped the shipwrecked sailors because along the way on the journey, the St. Paul and the ship got destroyed and they landed on this island that was called Malta, and its people were supposed to be barbarians because they didn't know neither Greek nor Latin. So compared to the Romans, they were supposed to be barbarians. But instead of treating them badly, they actually treated them very well. They lit a great fire for them. The reason that they lit a great fire for them is because when you're shipwrecked in the ocean, you're cold and like the rain, it's raining and it's cold. And raining represents the fact that some of those souls, some of those poor souls that were on the boat, they had obstacles in their life, and then the coldness is something that comes from within when a person doesn't have faith in themselves and doesn't have hope. But they kindled this great fire for them, as opposed to what the Romans were going to do. The Romans wanted to leave them on the ship, wanted to leave all the prisoners tied and just dump the ship and go back to Rome and just let them die. But the barbarians, the ones that are not expected to help them, actually did help them instead. Describe all the things that the people of Malta did for the shipwreck. So in addition to lighting the great fire for them to keep them warm, they took each of them onto their own, which that's the ending part of verse of Acts 28:2. And what that means, what St. Paul said when he said that was that what he meant by that is that the Maltese people took each one of the prisoners to their homes and fed them and gave them shelter. And this is it's kind of weird to imagine the barbarians would do this for prisoners, because the prisoners, you would think that somewhere on Malta there would be a prison where you could put them in and kind of have them guarded and it would be bad conditions. But instead they took them to their individual homes and protected them. As for the Roman guards could have also went on to barracks and guard houses to take shelter there, but the people of Malta also took them, and these are the people that the people of Malta also took them back to their homes, even though they know the Romans subdued them and hurt them. And how do we discover the burning bush in the actions of the people of Malta? The burning bush is basically a symbol of love. It's a symbol of limitless love. And when God says that you're supposed to love one another, you think that message only applies to us Christians. But the fact that it was these people who are barbarians and know nothing of Christ and know nothing of Christianity who were able to do it shows that God's burning bush, the limitless love, is within each human being, whether they know Jesus or not. And He's able to show love through any individual and for any individual, regardless of what faith they're from.
Jericho is a city that was known to be cold and filled with sin. It was also, it was just a very, very bad city. And the burning bush, the Jericho was kind of one of those cities where love almost didn't exist, or it had its limits when it came to that city, as opposed to the burning bush, which was also a symbol of limitless love. It was kind of like Jericho since it was closed off with walls on the outside. The symbolism that was used was kind of it had limits, and those walls were basically its limits, as opposed to the fire, which was kind of like a devouring fire of love, and that was kind of it kept on going and going. There was no end to it. So that's how they can be the antithesis of each other. And then explain the significance of the earthquake, fire, and the destruction of Jericho and its relationship and its relation to our lives. Jericho was first experienced the earthquake and then the fire. The earthquake was basically says the city shook at its foundation first, and then the fire started, which basically means for us, from the inside is where you get destroyed first, and then the outside will follow. The significance of the ram's horn is basically The ram's horn to the Jews was known as a spiritual sacrifice. To the church fathers, it was known as Christ's sacrifice. When they are blown, he used the symbolism in the book, basically saying that of a heart transplant, saying like before the heart transplant, basically he says that you must prepare for the heart transplant, and then after the heart transplant is complete, you triumph. And that kind of symbolism is used in which, when they were going around the city in silence, and then the ram's horn was blown after the victory, it meant that God's work worked through them, and the horn was blown for triumph, just as equivalent to the symbolism he used with the heart transplant.
Question is for Church B. The Strobel's interview with award-winning author Norman Geisler discusses how miracles confirm the validity of prophet. Please describe in detail 3 biblical examples he uses. Question to Church A. In the same interview with award-winning author Norman Geisler discusses how the Bible can be validated by archaeology. He notes that many times archaeologists have been skeptical of the Old Testament, only to have new discoveries corroborate the biblical account. Please describe in detail the 2 examples he gave. What New Testament book also corroborated by archaeology, and when was it written?
Geisler says how miracles confirm the validity of a prophet. 2 of these prophets are Jeremiah and Isaiah. And Isaiah first talks about, he says, Jeremiah says, I have, from the least to the greatest, all are greedy for gain. I really don't know.
Scientists have always been skeptical of the existence of the Hittite nation, or the Hittite people. So lately they discovered archaeological finds that proves the Hittite nation actually existed. That was mentioned in the Old Testament. So that's one. And also the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Scientists were skeptical of whether they were just biblical accounts or stories, and archaeologists found proof of an earthquake from the foundation of the city. And also there was a tunnel leading that the Israelite nation could have escaped from. And what New Testament book also is corroborated by archaeology, and when was it written? The Old Testament book Acts was written within 1 generation of the resurrection of Christ. And also John was, scientists used archaeology to prove different pieces of the book that they found written in Hebrew. And John was also written 1 century within the resurrection of Christ.